All right, good evening and welcome back. We are calling to order this second meeting, which is the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole for Monday, July 31st, 2017. And at this point, Ann, if you take a roll.
Hendrickson.
Here.
Kenny.
Here.
Lott.
Here.
Reed. Rule.
Here.
Tome.
Here.
Traxler.
Here.
All present.
All right, so this is a open meeting and it's been noticed accordingly. At this point, we're looking to look at the agenda and get an approval on that. I do have a suggestion for a rearrangement of this agenda as presented. I would like to make a motion to move item 10, which is James Street, or not, sorry, not number 10, but number 11. Consider a request to use 1149 West James Street facility for Cardinals Unlimited program. I'd like to move that to item just below item number 4, citizens' comments.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you guys. At this point, is there anybody signed up for citizen comment? Nope. All right, so we will jump right in with the revised agenda and start with the request to use 1149 West James Street facility for Cardinals Unlimited.
Would you like me to start, Reagan?
Yes, please.
Okay. It was a little while ago I was contacted by representatives from Cardinals Unlimited. Many know them as a very successful archery program in the school, and given the recent acquisition of our property for future fire station and the length of the building, the thinking was that that could be useful in the interim as a practice facility. And so I thought that was worthy of furthering discussion about it, and thought I would bring it to the council for discussion. Certainly our cooperation with the school district has gone well, and this I think could add to that, given the program and the schools and the number of students that it involves. So included in the memo that I sent in the packet, I just highlighted a couple of things that crossed my mind in terms of this, in terms of liability and the current contents of the building, whether they could be addressed. It sounded like a quick lease amendment could be addressed for the liability, and we would look to maybe section out a part of the building for the actual facility, but we can address those if as we go on in this discussion. So.
I guess I'll jump right in. I think it's a great use of a facility that right now we don't have any use for. As long as some of these concerns that Patrick brought up get taken care of, perhaps like the insurance thing and what the divider wall or whatever's going to look like, those all seem easy enough to compromise on. Mike?
Same comments here, really. If it's not being used right now, I have no problem with using it for something, since it's such a big wide open space in there. Since we have people from the organization here, I don't know if anybody can comment on this or if you have a spokesperson, but what would be considered an acceptable divider, I guess, since you're using it for archery? I know that you have targets that you use, but I mean, is a 2x4 wall with some drywall on it going to be safe and suitable as a divider, or were you thinking something else?
We actually,
If you could, just so if people are watching on television, they can hear. Thank you.
thank you, please. There actually is a drop net that we would use behind.
A drop net?
Yeah, so the arrows can't penetrate through. The targets would be in place, and then if anything were to miss, it would go through netting. But for down there, I guess it would be a size issue, a distance, we'd have to check and all that to see if we have the 15 to 20 meters. I know we shoot 10 and 15, but for further spacing back. So to see if it would work for us, but I think it would without getting in there and not knowing. But yeah, you would have the dividers in the back for your question.
And do you have those curtains available already to you? or is it-
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Where are you guys practicing now?
At the Columbus High School
Okay.
in gym. Small gym, freshman gym. On Sunday night, which is provided, perhaps, we a lot of times get bumped out because of either football or baseball might have a rain day or something, so they come in and then we're out.
Okay.
So once a week, basically.
Yeah, I'd support this as well.
Trina?
So I really love the idea of this. Would you have any utility needs, such as the restrooms or whatnots? What all are you looking for to be included?
Yeah, I mean, restrooms would definitely be something they would be looking for. Obviously, heat for the fall or winter, and whether we come to some conclusion how we can accommodate that or work it between us or whatever. So yeah, the restrooms, heat.
And then I was wondering if you're totally school-based, or are you more of a community club?
Well, we will be starting a 501c3 of the archery coaches, which pertains to 9 archery coaches right now, which 5 of us are here, I believe. So we're in the midst of making that happen. We just want a place for the kids to shoot. We have approximately 130 kids shooting, and we only get to shoot one weekend or one day out of the week. And there's a lot of interest for the kids that want to be there and shoot. And with the 9 coaches, we're kind of figuring 2 coaches per night, depending on how many nights or afternoons or whatever, or weekends. So, you know, we might Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, let's just say, or a Friday night. Kids can come, they can ride their bikes there. It's a safe place. It's lit, close to other businesses and stuff. So
this facility would allow you guys to increase the amount of practice time you get each week and kind of split your group
Yeah.
into smaller numbers?
that's what we're looking for. Then we can give them more individual attention. Because
It's easier to wrangle,
Yeah,
too.
when you, yes. So, I mean, we're dealing with elementary, middle school, and high school. And we got 9 coaches, which is great. But when you have that many kids there, you're really teaching them the very basics because you
Right.
can't spend the quality time. This would allow us to spend more time with them. And, you know, it would just be very helpful.
Matt, you have a question?
Yeah. You said you have a netting for stuff. It kind of, I'm assuming for this, you're looking for indefinite lease. I mean, it said, you know, I guess how long? Is this for as you can use it until we
Well,
obviously move forward with our own plans?
Yes,
or-
I think it'd be as long as we possibly could use it. And play, you know, see how things go from there. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be a time limit, I'm sure. If you guys rent it to someone else for a business or something where it's more profitable or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, we understand that. But instead of letting it sit empty is what my thought and is let's see if we can utilize it.
So like optimally, you guys would have a couple nights a week, different age ranges, groups
Yeah.
split out. You'd have the coaches be in there
Correct.
for the next couple of years unless we find somebody else, or until we do actually demolish it and tear it down and stuff, or whatever we end up doing with our own plans.
Correct. I would agree with that.
What is sort of you said you're using right now the school gym. I guess what are the agreement you have with them? Is it kind of a blanket use? You guys aren't dealing with any sort of utility costs or a rental fee or anything. It's just you're using the gym on some
Correct.
evenings. Okay.
Yeah, there's no utility fees or nothing there.
Okay. And is that something that you all would have heartburn with? I mean, if we're looking at 3 or 4 nights a week for a couple of years for electric and heat and in the winter, I guess that's something that is outside of the realm of feasibility for something that you would be worried
No.
about from your 501c3, or that, I mean, would we break the bank if we were looking for something like that? from you
No,
guys?
I would assume that, we really ain't discussed that completely, but I'm sure there's something we could probably work in there. I mean, we don't expect it to be completely free, although it'd be nice, but I don't think it's gonna, quite happen. But yeah, this is something we can look into more and let us discuss it more
Okay.
for prices and,
I figure we might as well ask the hard non-starter question first before we get going on it, so.
right.
Regan?
I have mostly easy stuff. So one, I just want to acknowledge that there are a lot of people here for this organization, and I think it speaks to the quality of the organization and the integrity of the organization. For those on the council who don't know, this organization has done very, very well, including attendance at national shoots on the last couple of years. And it's a phenomenal way to have the kids of all the different ages that they use interact with each other, but also learn leadership skills and have the peer recognition between the different grades of kids. So it's really a great thing for Columbus. I think this is a wonderful idea to use city space that's currently not being utilized. One thing I would like maybe you to speak a little bit more on is how would this impact the schedule that you've had previously? My understanding is sometimes practices, because of the constraints you've had with the school gym, have been fairly late at night. Would this allow practices to be a little bit earlier during the evening?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I would think that we could set up schedules that kids could probably practice at 5 or 6. You know, with coaches getting off of work and stuff,
Right.
I mean, that's, once again, we'd have to set that up amongst all the coaches, but definitely. It's just hard. I mean, and Sundays, I'll just say it right out there, I like to watch football. You know, so it's kind of hard. You know, I love teaching the kids, and every one of our coaches do. So if we could do this during the week, it would get the kids there during the day and then home earlier, so.
And before they're exhausted after the weekend.
Yes, yes.
However, tired kids might be easier to manage.
Yeah,
Just
no,
throwing it out
it's a
there.
great group of kids, and thanks for mentioning that nationals and stuff.
Yeah.
And we did have one of our junior kids make, he took state, and then we also have Lauren, right there, went to world, and that's
Wow.
huge.
Congrats.
Huge.
That was very impressive, so. And the thing is, if you guys ever were there to watch the kids, they're all there because they want to be. They love it. They truly do. And that's what all 9 coaches are just excited to help, because they all want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun, and it's great for the community. Like I said, we have roughly 130 kids. We lost 4 this year from being seniors. I already know 4 new kids coming in. That's just personally know, and maybe the other coaches know more. And so it's big. It's
Yeah.
big. It's not just a little. So it's nice.
I just,
Rod?
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I had one more thing.
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
for it.
So there are a couple students in the audience. I don't know if any of them would like to venture up to the microphone and say something. It's okay if you don't, but I'm really excited to see so many faces here.
Do you want to say something? Yeah.
No?
I think you're trying to get free
How about
lessons,
Wilson's
Regan, aren't you?
Sorry.
Great.
Are you going to? Come on up. Maybe if they ask you a question.
Okay.
What do you enjoy the most about the club?
Being able to shoot and being with all the people there and stuff. Yeah. That's it.
You like your coaches?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you do at Nationals?
I got to shoot the 3D shoot for the first time. And I shot a 217, which was pretty good for my first time.
Where were the nationals?
Louisville, Kentucky.
World right here.
Thanks. My favorite thing about archery would be making new friends, and I get to see these kids at school all the time, but it's more like a family, really. It's archery. There's 130 kids, and we're all just one big, huge family.
Nice.
Were the Worlds also in Kentucky?
Worlds changes every year. Nationals is always in Kentucky, but Worlds changes, and this year it was in Orlando. I got back about a week ago, actually.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now, Rod,
Well, everybody asked my questions already.
we gave you time to come up with new ones.
It's too late, too late.
Okay.
No, I think this is a fantastic use of an empty facility, and I'm 100% backing you.
Thank you.
Well, I would say we have consensus to move this forward, provided we get some of these other details fleshed out, right, that we're talking about here. Great commitment from your group to show up this evening in such a large number, so I think that speaks volumes, as Regan said here, too. So congratulations on the success of your program.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Past bedtime, so good luck with her.
Before we move on, can I make a comment?
Mm-hmm.
Before we moved on, I guess I wanted to just kind of go over the points we all talked about and how we move forward with this issue. It seems like everyone's in favor, but I feel like security and access, utilities and restrooms are going to be issues that we need to clarify and work with the group on. It's a vacant building, which if we don't have utilities on right now means there's no cost. So I think establishing the cost to have restrooms and heat in there for them needs to be known as a first step, I guess. And then also how they're going to get access to the building, et cetera. So
Thanks,
I don't know if
Mike.
we'll have that by the next meeting or not, but.
What do you think on that, Patrick?
I think my next phone call is to Mr. Will, and, you know, maybe we go down and visit the space, take a look at it. I want to have Chief Kane heavily involved. He's got a lot of connection to that building, of course, and so we want to make sure that the things are there, are protected, and I think through that we can start to work through these issues and bring it back. Yeah, whether it can be done in 2 weeks, I don't know, but if we are, we certainly will bring it back.
If nothing else, we can get an update.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Patrick. All right, next topic is Mr. Kaminsky from Columbia County Solid Waste. Update on service, the auto carts, et cetera. Welcome back, sir.
Good to be back. I brought some samples of the carts here for you to see. The gray one is the 96 gallon, and then we have the 65 gallon. See, they're both the same height, so there's really not that much difference. It's more just in the width and the depth. So these are nice carts because they got handles on them. These are the exact kind of carts you would have here. They're made shape by Schaefer. They're real sturdy plastic, so there's not a lot of breakage with these carts. They're a little bit more money, but I think it's worth the investment because they hold up very well. So I like them because of the grab handles too on them. You're not, grabbing underneath and trying to pull them up. So I can get more of these as samples if you want to have them in other locations, but that way everybody can see that these are basically the two sizes, the 96 and the 64. And I guess the other issue we need to, I guess, decide is if on the pickup, if you wanted to go with every other week or every week, and then the sizes. Generally, most people prefer the 96 gallon carts, because then everything's going to fit inside and with the lid down. A lot of times, if you go with the 64 and you have some unforeseen amount of garbage or recycling, it's sticking over the top, or it's blowing over, or it's next to the bin. So if you have the 96, everything's going to fit in there pretty well.
Okay. Rod?
We can have things sticking out the top.
You can, but I'm just saying this allows for a lot more with the 96. But yeah, as long as you can get it in the container.
Trina?
Were there pricing listed for the 64? I'm just seeing the 96
The pricing's the
ones
same.
listed. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's no difference in price between the 64 and really the cost to purchase them, it's a difference of not even $2. So between the 64 and the 96. So
Might individual households have a choice on which ones they go with? How does that
Yes,
work?
generally what we do is we order mostly 96s and we'll order some 64s for those. And if some, ahead of time, we can actually tell the company that we purchased these carts from is actually going to do the delivery, and they'll deliver them. If they have addresses of people ahead of time that want the 64s, they'll deliver it right away. Then you're not swapping them out. But if somebody gets this bigger cart and says, this isn't going to work for me, I'm a senior citizen, I'm the only one here in my house, I have one bag of garbage a week, we'll swap it out and bring them the smaller container. But anybody with a family or, it's the kids, you're going to want the 96, just to have that room. And especially if you decide to go with every other week on the recycling, these fill up quicker than you think, especially in this day and age with so much home delivery of packaged goods, cardboard, Amazon, you get the small cardboard boxes, that takes up a lot of space pretty quickly in those carts.
If somebody wanted to change their cart size, who do they go through?
Generally, they call us. And we'll
Call you direct?
Yeah, call us direct.
Okay.
And we'll just swap it out. It might take a week or two, and people are usually pretty understanding, but then we'll deliver them out and swap them out, usually on the pickup day.
Matt?
Not to put you on the spot, or I guess for here, do we have a rough idea for it? Because the appraisal here was per household. What's our number of households that we're running?
I believe it's around 1750, 1760, somewhere. I don't know the exact, it's right around there.
It's kind of a rough idea.
1759 it says.
Yeah, I think that's.
Did I actually miss it in here?
It's right above that chart.
Oh. I thought we were talking about 1759 prior to the U.S. being founded here.
Yeah.
Too many years and dates in here. That one's for you,
Ron?
man.
You mentioned we have a one-time swap out. If someone orders a smaller one right away, can they swap it out for a bigger one?
Sure, yeah. We always have a lot of the bigger ones, so that's not an issue. It's
Okay.
like, if there's a big run on small ones, I might have to order more, and, that may take a couple weeks to get them in, but normally that works out pretty well. We've done this in Poinette, we're doing it with Lodi now in a couple months, so we've done this with other communities where we've done it this same way.
Davis, did you have something to say?
If a wheel breaks on one of those, who do they go to get that fixed?
We take care of it.
You do?
Yeah, we take care of all the maintenance if they get damaged. It's gonna happen occasionally, you grab those arms, sometimes we crush one, we'll swap it out and replace it.
Is that a quick turnaround?
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround,
So
within a couple days usually.
Is that something you're relying on the homeowner to call your attention to, or do your service?
If our guys
employees
see
do
that
it?
they broke one, or if there's a broken wheel, they'll call it in. A lot of times they'll have some spare wheels right in the truck with them, and they'll just, if it's a wheel that breaks off or something, they can just pop it on there. If it's a lid that's damaged, we can replace these lids pretty quickly. They'll call it in and we can get it done fairly quickly. It's not like you're waiting months to get your cart replaced or anything like that.
Good deal. Mike?
To follow up with Davis's question, the language in the agreement, I believe, it says, county will be responsible for replacement of damaged wheels and tip bars and will replace one cart per specified residential unit over the term of the contract. How common is that?
I have yet to even have to replace more than one cart anywhere. I mean, generally, these carts hold up pretty well. In Poinette, I think we've replaced a handful of carts in 4 years that we've been doing it there. And if it's our fault, then obviously we're gonna, if it's something we damage when we're dumping the cart, we don't count that as, but there are times where there's like people who are just negligent and they get burned up or whatever, or they ripped, a hole in the side. It happens. We'll replace one, but we're not gonna constantly be, replacing burned out carts if it's due to the negligence of the homeowner.
Sure. It's not so much as, I think the language is pretty clear, I guess, where I get a little bit skittish with going to a cart that's universal that everybody has is, you have rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
They change. You're picking a cart, and that cart's going to be with that address that can change out one time. So if a tenant complains to a landlord that they want a smaller cart or a larger cart, well, you can do that one time. And so I don't know if this
We don't hold hard and fast to that. If it's new tenants or, we're pretty accommodating with that. We're not gonna say, well, you've had your one switch out, we're not, where it gets, we put that in there for when it's actual abuse and it's a recurring, and that does happen occasionally. It's rare.
Or do they disappear? I mean, do people move and take their garbage can along
Not
with
very
them?
often, because we have there's a barcode on, or a number on there, and we put that number with the address. A lot of times we'll find them in other people's yards or down the street, somebody who grabs another cart or whatever. Or sometimes they just get mixed up and don't realize, but.
And that was my last question, is whether or not you had an identifier on
We
the cart,
get an
so-
address list, and when they deliver them, they'll write the number down next to that corresponding address. So we have a list, and if you want a copy of that list, we can provide that to you also.
Sounds like you've thought it out well in
Yeah,
advance.
we've done this a few
Yes,
times.
yeah.
so.
Matt, did you have another question?
Well, I was just saying, looking at the numbers for the weekly, for both versus weekly, bi-weekly, it's hundreds of dollars. It really doesn't come out to that much. So I don't think that should be prohibitive when we determine what the final number is. You're shaking your head yes, or you're...
Yeah, it's totally up to you how you
Yeah,
want to do it. The other communities in the county that we do, they're all every other week, and it's more than enough. But if you want to go weekly, that's your, totally your call. We'll do it either way.
So it's looking like it's probably a 35 cents a month difference.
Yeah, and it's not that
for
much.
weekly versus
You're right.
bi-weekly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's basically just the cost of sending our truck through, every week rather than every other week. But.
Rod?
Personally, I'd rather have a weekly recycle pickup, because then I can use a smaller cart. If it was bi-weekly, I'd have a larger one, and I couldn't get it out of my garage between cars, but I'm for a weekly.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I would rather have a weekly recycle pickup as well, but the size of the container wouldn't concern me as far as if we decided to go every other week. Obviously, it would hold.
Right, it would
hold what I have to
you're
recycle.
right.
Matt?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All right, so we do need to take or give a direction here on a few major points. Andy, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on this. I also would prefer a weekly pickup for both trash and recycling, for all the reasons you guys just said.
Okay. The other thing we'll do is we'll assist the city with putting together, I saw an email about it, putting together like a flyer or brochure to kind of talk about the carts and when they're going to roll out. And we're looking at sometime in October for delivery. I think you said October 1st, is it the water bills that go out, or?
Yeah, I placed a sample at your desk, just kind of an outline of how, because I've been through this a couple times in other communities, and it always seemed like the biggest issue is public education, making sure people are aware. And so this lays out a plan to reach the community on what's happening. So it is draft, so it can be adjusted, but just kind of based on spacing of how we would roll out information, have a public information meeting, and we can utilize the utility bills on the October utility billing. We've confirmed that, so that's a good way to reach a lot of folks. So just whatever we can do to answer questions right off the bat. I know this issue's been hovering a little bit over the last couple of years, and have received some negative feedback from folks, but received as much or more of those in favor of going to that. So.
And a lot of people, once they get the cart and see how easy it is to use, a lot of that goes away. We had, when we rolled this out in Poinet, we had some issues also with people that weren't happy about the carts once they get them. It's a little bit of an adjustment process, but it works really well.
Yeah.
Looking at kind of the ideas for dissemination of the information, would it be possible to get a couple of those now that the city could have, and we could chain them up outside of City Hall? We have, I think there's
yeah, I'll leave these two here. You keep these, and then I'll order a couple more and get them delivered. It might take a week or two, but you'll have them, by the middle of August, and we can put them wherever you want them. If you want them in a couple different locations, so people can see the sizes. And these colors work real well because they're real distinguishable. The white, red, blue for recycling, and the gray for garbage. People who like gray garbage, So you can have whatever colors you want, but these stand out real well. So you can tell which is which, especially on dark days and, you know, winter. And that sometimes if you get too close a color scheme, you're dumping garbage and you're dumping recycle together. So this is actually a pretty good color scheme. You can,
I'm assuming we have some events coming up in the next couple of months. It might be nice to have them there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we got the fall festival coming up. You know, maybe even work
sure
with
the
the
library could have them
Oktoberfest,
outside
you
or
know,
something
that
too.
place where a lot of people gather. Be a good idea.
okay, I'll get a couple more delivered here.
Tomorrow
Great.
night.
Thanks, Greg.
And retirement party.
There you go. Practice filling.
Mike?
I feel like if we're gonna take the leap and go to automated, that we should continue with the weekly recycling pickup as well. I think if we don't do that, we're gonna end up with recycling that's put in the garbage. If your garbage isn't full, I just
Okay.
don't wanna go down there, and, you know, it's an increase to go to automated based on what we are right now, but it's only $1.20.
Well, the other thing I'll do for you is I won't start charging you the higher rate until the first of the year. We'll leave it at the $11.75 through even if we roll them out in October, because, you know, I'll leave you at that rate till January 1st. Then we'll just do the cart rate for whatever 2018 is that way.
Okay, that's
That'll
great.
save you a little bit of money through the end of the year.
Yeah, and the follow-up to that, I guess, is if we can see some savings too, to continue the spring cleanups, the bulk cleanups.
Right.
I'd like to see that continue,
Okay.
if not annually, maybe where we can do kind of a backup program now that we're defining the size of the garbage cart. If someone leans something against the cart, you know, I get the idea of automated. You want a guy in a truck and you want it to go quicker. You don't
Right,
want to get out
but
at
we
every-
also realize there are times where somebody's gonna have a little extra, and we'll try and work with that.
Okay.
As much as we can.
Sure.
And I think the spring cleanup to continue is still a pretty good idea, just especially with the carts now.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
people are gonna have some bulkier items they're gonna wanna get rid of.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Andy?
Yeah, this is kind of from Patrick. I brought this up a few times about getting an extra dumpster for recycling that could be put in the community, like at the recycling center or DPW, something for bulk recycling, like extra cardboard, in case they don't fit in your cart, you know, you had a good Christmas. And we had talked about it and you were gonna look into it or something, and I wonder if you had any time to think more on that?
I think that's something we can do. I don't know if I've emailed Greg on that or not, but,
No, but we can
It's just a
talk,
ma-
we can talk about that. If you wanna have a cardboard container at a centralized location. Other communities that we service do that, cause you know, you get a big appliance box or something, or like you said, around the holidays, you get a lot of bigger cardboard boxes. To have some place to be able to go and drop it off is, you know, sometimes beneficial than trying to jam it into your cart.
Rod?
I live in a very windy part of town, and a lot of people put their names and stuff on their carts because they blow all over the place. Can they do that with these?
Yes.
So if they had, would it be, let's say they had two blue carts or two of the dark green carts, could they put something on top signifying this is recycle and this is garbage? Would that
Yeah,
be a-
one will say recycle on it, there'll be a
Oh, okay.
recycle stamp on it, so you'll know which one's recycling.
Oh, fantastic, thanks.
And on that point, I like the idea of different colored carts for that very reason that you were talking about
Exactly,
before, Greg. I
right.
think that's a good point. So it seems like right now I've got 4 folks who are accepting of weekly recycle. Regan?
If you're looking for official weigh-ins, weekly or bi-weekly does not matter to me. I just want to do the automated carts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to agree with the others for keeping it weekly for recycling.
I think we have a direction on that then. 1 down,
Okay.
2 to go. Cart sizes, I think if we're gonna do weekly recycle, I think the smaller cart would probably suffice and make it a little more manageable for folks, but
That's totally your call.
Let's see, would it be best to do the reverse of
But if we do it that way, then I'm gonna order, 90% smaller carts, and if people wanna opt into the bigger cart, we'll do it that way. But then everybody's gonna get a smaller cart to begin with. So, we can do it either way, but
We're not gonna do it that way. We're opening it up for discussion.
I would recommend the bigger carts, just from past experience. And I know what happened in, City of Portage. They went with the smaller carts for recycling and the larger carts for garbage.
What was their frequency on recycle?
They're every other week, but they're gonna go to weekly now because even, it's a mess.
So you think even at every week, that would still be a small capacity?
It could. It could. I mean, and yeah.
And each household's obviously a little different.
It's
but-
always nice to have more volume than less, that's kind of what we always say, so.
Mike?
More capacity is better, and especially if the cost is the same.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be, Greg, you need to let us know of your timeline, because obviously you're buying automated trucks, you're gonna have to order these,
We have the trucks, we got one and the other one will be here at the end of August.
Okay.
I need probably 4 to 6 weeks to get carts here and delivered, so an October timeframe works really well if that's what we're still all talking about, getting the notice out with the water bills in October and delivering sometime during the month of October would work well. And then weekly pickup, you don't have to worry about calendars and every other week and that type of thing. We normally mail out a calendar or put a calendar so you know what your pickup days when they're every other week. But if it's gonna be weekly, it's just, you just put carts out on your pickup day like you normally would your garbage and your recycling.
I'm just thinking we need to kind of backwards engineer the timeline to start educating the public that this change is gonna
Right.
happen and what your choices are, because I don't.
And it
really
might
feel-
not be a bad idea to have a little informational, open type meeting or something where we have the carts and I could come and answer questions or something like that. I'd be happy to do that. We've done that in the past too.
At this point, we're gonna do basically like a general citywide order and then allow alterations or customization, if you wanna say that, afterwards. That's what we're gonna do, because the logistics of doing that the other way seem maddening. Regan?
Well, I was just gonna say, if you're wanting opinions on that, I think we go with the 2 larger carts to start. And then I think what we've always contemplated is people if they're in a situation where they feel they want the smaller ones, they opt in for the smaller ones.
That seems to be what I recall too in the other communities that transitioned here. Some feel that they can manage with the smaller cart, then get into it and realize that they need the bigger one. I can see the need for this to have the smaller cart option. Elderly or smaller household, maybe you could get some of those who opt that way.
And they'll have that option after the initial program kicks
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So
But
that'll be part of the whole.
You'll have very
information
few that
campaign.
actually do.
Yep.
Out of the 1,750, you might have 100 of them or 150.
I'm comfortable going with 2 at the 96 and, 1 blue, 1 gray, whatever we need to do there, but.
Okay.
Mike, your point about kind of taking a backward to the present look at the timeline's good, just so that we make sure we're not putting the cart before the truck.
And I think we have to pick a path, and your recommendation, you've done this in other communities before, I think
Right.
there's gonna be hiccups, but if we say we're going automated on this date,
Yeah.
and you're gonna get 2 96-gallon carts, and if you don't want that, you need to get a hold of this person, call this number, and we start, kind of
The
refining.
first month is always, just like when we started services, there's gonna be some hiccups. People are not gonna be familiar with what to do and what is this cart, you can educate all you want. Where did this cart come from? What's it doing here? We'll get those kind of calls and,
This program wouldn't change our weekly schedule, right? Your neighborhood's picked up on
no.
Tuesday, it's still
No,
gonna be a
everything will stay
Tuesday.
stay the same.
Okay. Trina?
No, I also like the idea of starting everyone, for the most part, with 96-gallon carts for both. I just wondered if we should have a pre-order date listed to give people that are truly positive that they want smaller ones the chance to order before we get a bunch of giant ones, just in case there's more people that are interested in smaller.
Yeah, that's totally your call. We can do it either way. I'm gonna order a certain amount of the smaller ones, so we've got them on hand. But if you wanna have a pre-order or something where we just deliver them right away, that's fine too. I've done it both ways.
I guess that was kind of my point, Trina, about if we just go ahead and do a general citywide order and then let people kind of decide after a week or two of experience with it, that'll probably be a little more manageable than kind of taking custom orders at the beginning and then, oh, well, you know, the rigmarole.
If you haven't had automated service before, then you don't know what to expect until you start doing it. So I think you just kind of have to pick the path and then refine it after you've picked the path.
Yeah,
You know, and I'm not gonna order 1,759 carts. I'm gonna order probably 2,000 of each, you know, so we've got some extras, so, you know, we have some to swap out, and if some break or we got some issues as we go along. We may find out there's more than we had this happen, and we may find out there's more than 1,759 units. Once you start delivering carts, all of a sudden, you know, everybody's got a cart, and, you know, so I will order extra.
Right, and it sounded like everybody's pretty comfortable with the transition draft that Patrick presented us with, correct?
I just had an edit.
Edit away.
Yeah.
On the second page, there are other choices for trash or recycling cart size. I think you just ended at requester's cost. I think you had a.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there are other things in here yet that I'll have to refine with Greg, but.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'll look it over too, and if I'll offer some input too if you.
Andy?
What's gonna happen to the people like that live in Ludington and James that put their trash on the curb, not in a container now? You know, they live in the apartments above the businesses. They're not gonna have a place to store their containers, and you don't want them on the.
Is there an alley behind?
There is a parking lot behind.
Okay.
So I think someone needs to address that.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to take a look at that.
I don't know if a
Normally with
maybe
the
a dumpster
businesses,
or-
normally with businesses like an alley or something, they usually put their carts in the alley, and we just go down the alley and grab them in the alleys. But if there's no alleys, we'll probably have to take a look at that. I've not really encountered that situation before, so we'll have to see if there's something we can work out there.
Good point, Andy, thank you. Mike?
On Andy's point too, it would be good to find those properties. I guess as we go through this, hopefully we'll start hearing back from some of those people. But having automated pickup downtown where there's public parking isn't going to be a good mix if someone puts their trash can out the night before. And
That becomes difficult too, if there's
So-
cars in the way blocking it. So that's why we usually say put it in the alley or in somewhere behind where you can access it, but
Yeah.
you're right, that's a good point.
So I think
Especially in a downtown area.
that may take some time, but we need to clarify that. And I think that I've heard complaints in past years where people put their garbage out maybe 2 days in advance and it's sitting out on the sidewalk downtown. And if you can find a better collection point for those properties, that would be a win-win.
Mm-hmm. All right. Patrick, is there anything else you can think of that you need direction on, or?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, this draft will be refined. Unless you have any other things you'd like to think about with this, given the timeline, I'd like you to just review it, work with Greg and DPW and make sure it gets out there. Because I've got it starting in a couple weeks here, you know, the public education campaign, so to speak, so.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
What was the date that you felt implementation could be comfortable at this point?
I think October, early October, first couple weeks in October. That gives you a couple months before it really gets cold and the weather gets bad to kind of get it out there and get people comfortable with it before the end of the year. Like I said, then we'll start charging January 1st for it.
And October 1st is a Sunday, so.
So, yeah.
That
I mean,
first week of
that
October
first
would be
week of
good.
October, probably.
It's a goal.
Yeah, I'll meet with our supplier, in the next week or so and hammer it down, but that should not be an issue at all, because they told me 4 to 6 weeks, so that gives us plenty of time.
Right. All right. Anybody have any other questions for Mr. Kaminsky? No? Thanks for your time
Thank
again,
you.
Greg.
Sure.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is consider bid opening on the 2017 lift station equipment upgrade, and City Engineer Letha is here on this issue.
Okay, council, this was for, if you recall, there was a task order quite a while back. It was for multiple lift stations kind of in and around the community. There's multiple repairs on each one. Some were electrical, some were structural, some were pump related. I know we itemized out the details specifically on each one of those stations. So we've obviously completed the documents and have got some bid information back on this, so we wanted to bring it forth. If you read through the letter that we had typed up based off of the bid evaluation here, there were 3 contractors that were solicited. One did not or declined to bid just due to the workload. They were pretty busy. We do have 2 here which were very reputable. One has done quite a bit of recent work for the city. The other has done some in the past. We analyzed it, and I think everything came in good. The results, again, the alternate bids were put in place to allow us to maximize the budget and try and get as much done as we could. In this particular case, Sable Mechanical was low, and we were looking at recommending the base bid plus alternates 1 and 2. There was an additional base bid that we're not alternate bid that we're not recommending, and that was based off of some work at the transit lift station. The reason we weren't recommending, obviously, that was it was alternate that pushed us over the budget amount. Plus, we had some issues right now with just general accessibility with the wet weather and the conditions out there. And so we just felt like that was something that wasn't as prioritized as the other lift stations, so we wanted to kick that one out as a recommendation. We did look and make sure that all the bidders met the requirements of the technical specifications. We did do follow-ups on similar projects and reference checks, and Sable has worked again with the city in the past. So we were looking obviously to move this forward as a recommendation as part of the sewer water replacement lift station projects.
All right, thanks, Jason. Anybody have questions on this? Concerns?
I'm trying to find the thing I read.
Jason, what's your, I mean, there's a large difference between the low bid and the second bid. Any insight in it as to?
The best we could tell, talking with the contractors, it was based off of workload again. We get in that situation where some contractors are finishing up projects, looking for fall work. We have other contractors who are pretty busy right now because they've been booked up with fall work. So again, you'll kind of see those prices reflected upon availability, and that's generally what you'll see. One didn't even bid, obviously, because of that reason. So.
Mike?
On the Sable Mechanical quote, down towards the bottom of the page, by others on all stations, at the bottom of that paragraph, it says no bid bond or performance bond included. Is that just in this specific description here or for the entire contract, and is that common?
Being that this was actually project managed by one of our other project managers, I'll have to check on that to see if that was just specifically to Sable. I'm guessing that this work is maintenance work, so I know it doesn't necessarily have to go through the public letting process that we do for like a street reconstruction or something, which doesn't obviously exempt it from meeting contract requirements, but obviously if they clearly stated it wasn't, I can check to see if it was or wasn't, just to make sure or have some insurance that the work is performed correctly. But let me follow up and I can get back to you on that.
And as Reagan had asked too, with the price difference between the two, I don't see the other quote, so I don't know if that's something that saves them money, but I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't something that was, overlooked.
Not comparing apples to apples exactly, and let me follow up on that since I wasn't in charge of the project, although I'm kind of pinch hitting again for the wastewater guys here tonight, so,
Thanks, Jason.
yep.
Trina?
Oh, just a quick question. For Sable, under Adder, it just mentions that the lift station's on wet ground and there's no money in case trucks get stuck.
Right.
What are they referring to?
That was alternate one. That's the one we're recommending not accepting. That was again because of the conditions on the transit lift station, so we wanted to disregard that alternate, and so we would be recommending the base bid plus alternate 2 and alternate 3. Yeah, the 55,472 was alternate 1, and that's what we were recommending throwing out.
So we're gonna get clarification on the one spot,
Yes, absolutely.
on the no bid bond. Is there anything else? Anybody else had noted that? No? So at this point, are we bringing this one forward, Patrick, with the follow-up, or are we?
I guess I would defer to you if you'd like to see more information or see the change or the additional information on the regular agenda. I'm not sure about timeline for.
Yeah, on the end of our recommendation letter, it does say that the quote remains in effect for subject to acceptance until August 18th. So, again, I know you guys were talking about a special meeting, but also I know your other meeting,
Yep,
is
is
a little
the
later in the
15th.
month. So, if you wanted to wait and do it or pull it back to the cow, obviously, then we would have to talk to the contractor about extending the. And it says in here that it can be extended, but. That would just have to be a clarification we would get with the contractor if you chose to just to bring it back to the cow, so let me know.
Just a thought, I think the biggest question was what Michael said about bid bond. If we can get a satisfactory answer, we could bring to the regular. If we have a questionable answer or concerning answer, we could bring it back to the cow.
I was in favor of bringing it forward anyway, because I don't think it's too big an issue. It seems like it'll just be a simple clarification, but I like that approach, Patrick. Gives us a little flexibility. Okay.
Yeah, and just as long as we have clarification, just because I saw the language, I don't know what is standard and what we want to have, or if we're exposing ourselves. If we're not, and we're comfortable, and that goes with city policy, I don't see any reason to hang it up for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
All right, the next item is report on TIF number 4 utility extension project, review bid process.
This one was placed on the cow because of timing. And I'll just throw it to Jason again because
All right.
he's the one who wanted to discuss that.
This was, the project has evolved a little bit with some changes since I think this probably made the agenda item. And just to kind of back up and live the thought process of why this was here, we were looking at bidding advertisement for bid last Saturday. We were ready to go with the project. We're basically at 100% plans and specifications. We've done some investigation. We've talked to several contractors that would potentially pursue this project. We have a lot of interest right now. It hits the window. And our concern was we've really been pushing hard to meet this November completion date of the lift station to be online, and that's what we've kind of discussed with Fromm since day one. Well, day one as in 12 months ago or 18 months ago. And based off of all of that, our concern was if we got out to bid, we would have to get the project awarded, and turned around fairly quickly here through the process. So we were talking about a couple options. Hopefully there would be some meetings, not that you guys, hopefully for you, but we thought there'd be some meetings coming up with the budget process, some other things where we might be able to look at potentially putting a bid opening and acceptance on one of those meetings rather than just hitting the regular meetings. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the schedule on that. Since that conversation has come up, we've talked to Richard Best at Fromm, and he indicated that they will not be online until after the first of the year. We still want to pursue the utility installation, the lift station this fall, but that gives us a little more flexibility on timeline. And so what we first thought was really this push to meet this deadline that we believed that we had with Fromm, or kind of unofficially agreed to. We later learned that, Fromm had indicated that there's a little bit more time in here. Now, weather pending, we do have pipe to put in the ground, so we'd like to get that done sooner than later in the fall. But with the lift station build, we have 12-week lead times on ordering pumps and some other things where we know that we want to get approval as soon as possible so we can get that material and equipment ordered once the contractor's selected, and we can obviously then get that installed. So our substantial completion date on this project, we're intending to be the end of December, or basically the end of the calendar year. That will again allow the main components of the lift station to be ordered, delivered, and installed. With the change with Fromm's desire to hook on any time before that, we felt like it was, in our mind, kind of that gave us a little more time instead of trying to rush this through the system. We also did talk about having the final completion or acceptance in spring. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do much restoration December 30th or end of the year. Presumably, there could be snow on the ground. So the idea would be that we would have the final punch list walkthrough. Even though we might have had startup and substantial completion, we would just have kind of the final acceptance in spring, which would start our 1-year warranty period for another 12 months. So that's kind of right now what schedule we're kind of proposing. But obviously, we wanted to bring that back and just kind of let you guys know that we're still interested in progressing quickly, but yet we felt like there wasn't the issue that we thought we had as far as getting through all the approvals and getting the contractor on site and working and trying to get all the materials ordered as soon as possible. So I guess that was kind of the review process and the update that I just wanted to kind of bring before you guys, just because it's a little different than we've talked about historically, and we just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of it.
So the short of it is we got a little extra time.
I think we do, but yeah, we're
we
still
want to.
Yeah, and as you know, we talked earlier, we're still kind of up in the air a little bit about exactly where we're putting it. So when I say we're 100% done with the design, we're about 99% done with the design, because we still have to plop it on the ground somewhere and revise some plans and then get out to bid. So we're getting very close to bidding, but until we get a final decision and agreement on those final pieces, we just really can't go anyways. So.
All right. Well, thanks for the information, Jason.
Yep.
All right. Next. Consider replacement for floor scrubber for pavilion. And we have Davis Clark from DPW here.
Thank you, everybody. Here we go. Currently, we have a 2011 floor scrubber that we use for the upstairs of the pavilion. It's 15 inches wide. After every rental, which all summer long, all spring, fall, we have rentals up there every weekend. So my crew goes in after those rentals and does a better clean on the floor. They're usually sticky with punch or whatever they happen to have. So we've been looking at new floor scrubbers. We actually had 3 demos come out. Let the crew actually use them upstairs and downstairs. The ones that they looked at are wider, so we can get done probably twice as fast. They have adjustable pressure, so now we can put more of a down pressure. For example, when we're doing spot cleaning, if there's gum or something on the floor, especially the concrete floor downstairs, we can get a much better clean. So we like I said, we demoed 3 different types. Our recommendation is from Salamone Supplies, the 26-inch floor scrubber for $6,077.96. Some of the other uses, the wood floor here at City Hall, Senior Center tile floor, the aquatic center in the shower rooms. With this better machine, we thought we could utilize that machine in some of these other areas in addition to that. Main reason we used the smaller machine at the pavilion is we couldn't We only had one place to store it upstairs, and that was in the stairway that goes to the attic. There were no other areas to store it. Now with the elevator, we can take it downstairs with a bigger unit and put it in another location. The money for this is coming out of the auction money that we had last year and auction money from this year, so it's not money that the city actually had to budget. It's from sale of previous items approved by council.
Is the 15-inch floor scrubber you have now operational?
It is operational. We would then turn around and put that in our next auction. It's becoming harder to get parts for it. I mean, it's only 6 years old, but, you know, it's kind of like computer things.
Have you guys kicked around the idea of maybe kind of staging that one in either this building or the senior center building rather than transporting the new one and taking those risks? Just a thought.
That would be a possibility, although, again, parts are becoming harder to come by, and the newer unit, it mixes the chemicals automatically, so we don't have to measure how much of this per water. It does that automatically, so it's a much more efficient machine to begin with.
Okay. Andy?
The auction money that you're referring to for this year, are you already counting, like, you would be selling the other one into that auction money?
No.
Okay, so you already have
money's
this-
already in hand, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Rod?
How long does it take now to currently do the floors?
About an hour and a half for the upstairs.
And you have to do the downstairs too?
On occasion, not always.
Okay.
Most of the rentals take, you know, all the material and everything is upstairs, so that's the biggest problem. Downstairs, you can use a mop and you can mop that up real good. You don't really want the renters using mops on that wooden floor. So we ask them to do spot cleaning upstairs, and then they can damp mop downstairs. So we have more cleaning to do upstairs than there is down.
So going from a 15-inch to a 26-inch would really be a lot of,
Oh, yeah,
that'd help a lot.
yeah, it'll go a lot quicker.
Matt?
On that note, I'm assuming you went with the 26 as opposed to the 28 or 34 because of other use ideas with restrictions in our locations. So the 26-inch ended up being the best.
Yeah.
With for everything.
Yep. And again, I had the crew handle all this. They went out, they called the companies. They were all responsible for putting their hands on the machine and trying it out. I needed their opinion on what they thought would work best for them. And it was unanimous agreement on this machine.
Mike?
I think one of my concerns is that it would be nice to be able to use that in all these applications, but this doesn't look like something that gets moved out of a building normally. So how are you going to move it from, there's an elevator in the pavilion now, which will
Right.
help, but then getting it like to the senior center or city hall or the aquatic center, it seems like it would be a little cumbersome to kind of have to load and unload and move it around.
And those applications wouldn't be weekly, like the pavilion is weekly because it's used. So here at City Hall, maybe once or twice a year. Same thing with Senior Center. Pool, maybe in the beginning of the spring, when we get everything set up. So there's other applications for it, although we wouldn't be using it as often there. And to transport, we would probably use the toolcat with pallet forks to get it in a truck and then bring it over that way.
Okay. And then also, it's a floor scrubber, but can you change out the pads?
Yes, you can.
So, because it looks like it does everything, but so
Yeah.
you can like utilize it more for the wood floors and then change out the pads if you want to do like the
Yeah,
aquatic
you
center.
need to get something that's more concrete based. You can put a thicker, heavier duty pad on there.
Okay.
Mhm.
And is the machine built, so basically you select the floor and then it combines the chemicals on board for that floor?
Correct.
Okay.
And then you can adjust manually the pressure, down pressure. If you get to an area where you go across it and it's still real dirty, you can adjust the down pressure and scrub it a little bit harder.
Okay.
The one we have now currently, you can't do that.
Then this is just a crazy question, but I'm sure the technology is there. Have you looked at a robotic version of this?
No, we have not.
it's basically a big Roomba, And if you didn't have to have someone pushing it for an hour and a half or 2 hours, I'd just be curious to see what the market is like that. I mean, I've seen those lawnmowers that are robotic,
Exactly.
they're $5,000, and it's the same technology here, but you've got a floor scrubber, so I was just kind of curious if you wanted to upgrade, you know, just the savings and labor of putting it out in the pavilion
Yeah.
and having it run unassisted. It seems like it's something that's available, but I just don't know.
I don't know if it is or not. We can look into it and see
I'm
if there's
just,
any
just
robotic
curious,
versions.
just wanted to ask. Thanks, thanks.
Matt?
Robotic one. Interesting. I'm assuming you already have maintenance and part swap out costs built into your current budget for the current 15-inch.
Yes.
So jumping over to this new version, maintenance costs obviously will drop on the initial cost for
You
different
would
heads
think, yeah,
and
you would think it would
scrubbers.
drop a little bit.
Yeah.
Although we'll be probably cleaning more,
Mhm.
you know, different pads and
Yeah.
things, so we may not see any difference in that, except that it's a new machine and we don't need, parts that break quite as often. So there might be some reduction in, maintenance costs.
But there might be some increase in extra heads and swap outs
Mhm.
because of getting.
Yeah, things that we don't
So,
get now.
okay. Are you taking that into account for this next round of budgeting stuff?
We will be, yes.
Okay, perfect.
What's the brand of the floor scrubber now?
I think this one, the one we have now is also a Clark.
So do we have a potential with an issue with Clark making parts for this not available really in the next 4 years?
Not according to the person that brought it up, you know, sales rep. It's, shouldn't be an issue, he said.
Okay.
And parts we should be able to get within 3 to 5 days.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? No? Patrick, do you have something?
Nope, just, I'm not hearing any concerns.
Me
So-
either. I think we can move this forward to
Yeah.
Okay,
to
thank
the
you for your
next
time.
one. All right. Thanks, Davis. All right. Number 9, consider job description for city clerk position. And this is back again, and I think we got that. Yes. Patrick was kind enough to provide that for us this evening again. If I remember right, Patrick, there hasn't been any change to this document, correct?
Not from this, it's changed from the current job description, but
Not
it
from the
hasn't
last
changed.
time we looked
over
at
the-
this at the last meeting.
Right,
Correct,
yep.
all right.
So
Thank you for
the
clarifying.
hope was if there's been some review by any of the members of the council, if there's any questions or feedback. I know we talked about at the last meeting that we're comfortable enough to move forward on the recruitment, but just in talking with staff and knowing about schedules, we haven't made that step yet. And based on how we go tonight, will dictate how we proceed.
You've had staff input on the description then?
Mhm.
Obviously, Ann would be integral in that, but
Correct.
other staff members have been involved as well?
Yes.
Okay, and people are pretty comfortable with the version you have presented?
Mhm.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Andy.
Mike, you were on, sorry. Go ahead. I think we have to fill this position, and obviously Ann's leaving behind some big shoes and a lot of areas that need to be filled by a clerk when Ann had a lot more administrative duties and other offices that she kind of helped fill. So I think in the interest of filling the position, I think we need to, have a description that looks like a statutory requirement for a clerk's position. But if the pool of candidates comes back and we have candidates and someone gets hired that has other skills that can contribute to other departments, I guess, can't we alter the description at that point, at that hire, to define the position more?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay, so
This is your floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is a good floor to start at. So I
I
have no
mean,
problems with
we
this.
have some
Thanks, Mike.
language in there about other duties as assigned. I mean, that provides some flexibility, but if it becomes
The catch-all.
something though that is more specific, I think we would want to amend this just so we know what the current clerk is doing and keeping track of it.
Sure. And is the reason that the council's involved in this job description is because this is an official position who's
Yeah, it's
somewhat
defined
appointed?
in statute as an appointed.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Andy?
Actually, I just had a quick question for Ann. How involved were you in this list?
Is that the list from the last meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. Patrick had just taken the other one and kind of gone through it, and there didn't seem to me to be a lot of stuff taken out of it. But the job descriptions are a little vague because it's mostly as what you are supposed to do. Because the state changes what we do all the time. Earlier tonight, we were doing one of the things that was added just in July of this year to do so.
Okay.
If you have the title, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, city clerk, and a job is assigned to the city clerk, that's what you have to do, whether it was on your job description or not. It's a function of the office. So it's hard to say this is absolutely the only thing that they're gonna do, or.
Yeah, I think the
Everything
previous
they're
statement,
gonna
this is a
do.
good floor, or a good
Yeah.
start, is spot on, and at this point, I'd be looking to move this forward then, Patrick, is that the protocol here?
Yeah.
If we're
Right.
comfortable, which I think we are, so.
Yeah.
There's our answer.
Okay.
We will
Good.
move this forward. Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
All right. Number 10, James Street Reconstruction Project Update, including the Stage 1 punch list reviewed by city staff.
This item returns. So yeah, the issues that are hanging, I guess I'll just start as just the general overview of what's happening out on the project. The contractors are continuing to focus, right outside our window, getting what was designed as a phase 2, which was Ludington heading west all the way out to the project boundaries, has kind of developed in a 2A, 2B situation. They're focusing on Ludington to Lewis, getting a lot of that ready and prepped, because we understand that they're getting ready to pave that section, which previously was not expected or planned. But that's a good thing for the community to get that paved, and obviously opens up accessibility to the residents that are particularly in this area. Then another future paving would happen Lewis all the way out to the project limits. Also, a lot of work being undertaken at Dick's Industrial and James on the other end, doing the half and half scenario and improving the engineering and design of that intersection. So still a lot of work to do, but they keep making progress. The two items that I highlighted on the memo was, again, just the revisit of the sidewalk terrace. I believe that just with schedules and things for staff, our intent was to huddle and get the technical staff together to talk about what the DOT had said. That huddling hasn't happened yet, but it should very soon. So we could certainly continue to discuss that tonight if anyone has any thoughts or ideas in relation to that. And then the second item was I included the punch list developed by the technical staff, city engineer, public works director, and water and light superintendent for stage 1, so you could see the issues that they have raised in terms of what's been done on stage 1.
All right, so item 1 being first, we'll take it first. Anybody care to share thoughts, ideas? James Street Sidewalk Terrace, Mike?
I think they both kind of, for me, are somewhat related. So I don't want to get off of number one, but I guess when I looked at the punch list, I wasn't surprised. I guess the little that I've spent walking around there, down there and looking at some of the concrete finishing techniques and maybe just the lack of detail or professionalism in some of the stuff kind of piqued my curiosity. And I think that, you know, that's somewhat related to the way the terrace looks as well. So I think they're kind of related to a point. I think if you have a punch list with this many issues on it, there's justification in wanting to address the terrace issue. I did ask Patrick if we could huddle up a little bit, but he had vacation last week, so I'd like to get together with him and Jason and Davis and Eric Anthen to look at the proposed plan from the DOT about the step, just to see what that would affect because of the utilities and everything else that's along that terrace, and to consider options, maintenance issues, you know, snow removal.
Number of trees that would be affected.
And the lights are going in right now too, coming into that direction as well. So Dave had mentioned something about a light being taken out of the plan if we change that, and I don't think that's an option. I think the lights need to stay where they are, but there may be workarounds. So I was kind of hoping that we could huddle this week and kind of look at that too. So. And the lights look fabulous, by the way, on phase one.
Yeah, I agree. I like them a lot aesthetically. They're very pleasing, and the LEDs are nice and bright. But yeah, I think it would kind of behoove us to have that little confab and understanding everybody's schedules and timelines. It's totally understandable, and I don't think that puts too big a crimp on this process to bring this back after you guys have had a little powwow about it. You guys are comfortable with that? I don't see anybody jumping off with like blueprints and big ideas here. It's a big shocker. Matt?
I guess one of the concerns, I guess, in the group that gets put together, we just had, I'm totally blanking on his name, the guy who did the insurance for us.
Dennis Bukta.
Bukta, yeah.
Dennis.
I feel like he definitely needs to be involved in conversation, as you do as well, Paul, just from a liability standpoint. The idea has been talked about and kind of mentioned, but I feel like nobody's really actually drilled down on this to make sure. I feel like I've heard examples of municipalities that have had issues with sidewalks or terraces, as loosely defined as that did end up paying out because of these very loosely defined issues that I couldn't really find a lot of information about. So I would very much think that needs to be, I need Paul or Dennis here basically saying, nope, we're good. You know, because I think otherwise we're going to come back on this.
Are you talking about insurance claim liabilities and that?
If the city decides to go along with the sloped terrace, the sidewalk is in per DOT, the sidewalk meets ADA, the roadway is in, meets what the plans were expected as far as the information provided by DOT. The terrace is in the middle, and that's what we're discussing. And
I think it's prudent, absolutely.
I think it's definitely very prudent.
I'm not an insurance expert, but I do know that insurance companies will try to subrogate for property damage claims for a scenario just like that. So yeah, to kind of have our ducks in a row and anticipate things like that would be good.
Yeah, because it seems like that's kind of there's the couple points of leave it in, okay, if we leave it in, then that's an issue. If we take it out and put in some sort of step, you know, does that mitigate the issues with doors? Yes. Is there still any issues with liability for having a step in place from 7 to 9 inches? Probably not, based on requirements, but again, too, making sure every option has one or two points that need to be verified, you know, that it's probably not going to be the good option. It's going to be the lesser of a couple of evils, I guess, at the end of the day, as to what we, the city, end up having there for that section.
Andy?
What's the difference between slipping on the slope and slipping on a step? Insurance liability wise, I mean, it's still the responsibility of the business owner to make sure it's clean and clear.
I don't know if we'd have a
I thought we,
responsibility to keep the terrace clear, but a step we clearly would, just off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, the terrace is in the step, or the step is in the terrace. So I think that it's
The
going to
step
depend.
changes the terrace, though.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to comment on, when you're talking about liability, property damage versus personal injury, two different, very different things. I'd be way more concerned about the personal injury piece, but I don't know. I don't know how often that's going to come up, whether it's a terrace or a step, honestly. I think it's going to vastly depend on how it looks when it's finished. I don't know. I'd almost vote to let's see what the finished product looks like.
Finished product being what comes from the huddling group of,
I guess that obviously we'll listen to whatever whatever the group comes up with, but to me it would be very hard to determine what the visual reasonableness of the separation of the two areas is going to be until the lights are in and the trees are in and whatever else is done. And I don't know that I'd be comfortable taking the extra step of creating a step before the finished I can visualize that. It kind of goes back to the first comments we had where, listen, this is a project in phase. We're not done yet. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. And this issue for me does come down to the visual separation and how do you prove liability on something like that? So.
Was there a concern with timeline issues, though, Patrick? Weren't we trying to be a little more proactive than reactive on this?
I think that
I thought it was something about anticipating the following stages and trying to have a course of action kind of figured out from this scenario before we start progressing.
Yeah, what we have talked about with DOT is the potential for what things might look like on the west block. I mean, we certainly don't want to have concrete poured and see the same thing. But in terms of addressing the west or the east side, I think the DOT would like to know from the city what we'd like to see, but I think the city needs to really know what they want to do. It's a huge change. It takes out quite a bit of investment, and it makes a big investment to replace it. So we need to have our ability to do our due diligence to know exactly what we need to do. And the project itself goes for a couple of months. I mean, in terms of that, I don't necessarily think that's anything the city, I mean, we should be mindful of it, but concrete's going to be poured in town here for quite a while yet. So when we say we've got a plan, DOT, we work through the process, there should be a concrete contractor within arm's length somewhere that we can grab or whoever we need to address it.
Trina?
Well, I really just don't know if step versus slant is safer one way or the other. If we went with the steps, would we then also need some type of railing? I just don't know how far I would need to go.
Matt?
As far as I understand, and Jason, you can back me up on this too with your engineering knowledge that we can, with our powers combined. If you're over a foot, is usually when you get into a step, is when you get into some sort of railing or protective edge. Looking at the grades that were provided by Dave when he was here, the section that we pulled out would be in the 7 to 9 inch range. So we're talking kind of a little standard baby, step kind of size. We wouldn't be getting into any sort of railing requirements theoretically, but it wouldn't necessarily be outside of the realm. That would be an idea for the city to pursue for our own. And that's where we boil down to groups got to huddle and talk and see that there's other variations on ways to mitigate people going down the terrace, which is kind of what started the whole issue in the first place. The doors, I don't think, are really the big issue. I think it's you're going down the street and down a terrace, if somebody catches an edge with a wheelchair or something and rolls down the terrace, you're going down the street too. And there's safety concerns that are in there, and that needs to be, then I think that should be the main driver when it comes to a final decision on what goes in there. And aesthetics, I don't think should be a driving factor on this. It needs to be what's going to protect us from liability, cost, and what's going to protect people who are walking around downtown, because
We want it safe.
we want it safe.
Mhm.
That's my 2 cents.
I think I agree with, I think I get the gist of what you're saying, which has been reiterated here a couple different ways, which is basically we need a little more legwork done and some ideas put forth by this other group, and then we can start looking at options. Does that seem right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the insurance issue has to be talked about, and liability issues.
Yep, I think that's a good point by Matt to bring Mr. Bookta into the discussion, so we can do that. We good? Anybody else? Additions? No? All right. At this point, that's our last topic of the evening. So now we're just looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Need a second? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you and good night.